Welcome. We'll get started shortly. Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zach from Earmark, and thank you for joining us today or watching this on demand. I'd like to welcome you to AI-driven manufacturing, boost efficiency and profits. I'm going to hand it over to your instructor for today, Kendrick Hare. Kendrick, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Zach. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're excited to talk about AI-driven manufacturing. So when we think through AI-driven manufacturing and manufacturing in general, there's so much content to think through and information to really capture how are we effectively driving manufacturing to be more effective and smarter in the workplace. So if you've got clients who are manufacturers, if you are a manufacturer in some capacity as well, I know some consultants that have side businesses or things of that nature, or whatever that may look like, chances are, if you're a bit like me and you have to think through manufacturing, you want to make the best decisions. So our intent here is to really drive down how we create those opportunities and learn about the manufacturing process and tools that can be used to help enhance that. I'm, by way of introduction, the chief evangelist at a company called Fishbowl. We're inventory and manufacturing software that integrates with QuickBooks and Xero and other accounting platforms. And our mission as a company is to enable small to lower mid-market companies to get more out of their business operations by employing tools like Fishbowl and QuickBooks or Xero to help them become more efficient. So we have a passion at Fishbowl for enabling small business, and a piece of that is really in what our conversation and topic today is going to be on, providing better insight and some of those things. So we'll jump into the agenda here on the next slide. First, we'll start off with understanding the value of data in manufacturing. And that's multifaceted. We could spend hours and hours just talking through the value of data in manufacturing and to a degree where and how Fishbowl supports supplying that data. Now, it's no secret that there's a lot of data out there. So when we think through business systems and operations that exist in a typical manufacturing environment, especially if they're a product-based business with consumer goods, there may also be data that resides in subsequent systems like a Shopify or an Amazon or an eBay or Walmart from the e-commerce side. There may be a CRM solution involved. There may be shipping tools that have data, and one of the things is that with all of this great data and all of these systems, there's evolved this constraint where the data is siloed, and it's hard to see everything that's happening within the organization, even though there's great data per se in the various systems that a business may be using. The value of that comes in understanding, knowing the data, being able to aggregate across it, and so you can make informed business decisions. And so that leads into step 2 of our agenda, which is discovering how you can utilize AI tools to improve the bottom line for yourself, for your client. And what we want to foster in business is the ability to make good business decisions and have, from a product-based standpoint, the right items at the right time so that you're not overstocking and so that you're not losing out on sales opportunities. For growing businesses in the manufacturing segment, the reality of investing in inventory is your working capital. And so everything that you're putting into, whether that's raw goods or work in process goods or finished goods, that's money on the shelf. And if that money sits idle, it prohibits the ability to make other investments that can help the business grow and succeed. So that's really the lens that we're looking at, or one of the lenses we're looking at, from a perspective of improving the client's bottom line, is knowing what you need and what you've got, where it's at, what build times look like. And so we'll get into a lot of detail there. The last step in this is, knowing's half the battle, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that every client that we're working with has the tools and the capability to really implement smart practices. Now, if you've been following the manufacturing flow over the course of the last few years, there's a lot more in sustainable supply chain that folks are working on, locally sourcing or regionally sourcing, in addition maybe to international supplies, focusing in on building the right things at the right time, the ability to deliver to customers and available to build time, and estimating. And all of that's driven by the capabilities on the shop floor to know and understand your business. And so one of the side benefits to Fishbowl not only is inventory manufacturing, but also order management and process improvement and quality control and those other facets of the process of good manufacturing, which includes setting smart manufacturing practices. So we'll end on that and talk through more of the development of those things. And that's more of a journey than a destination. If you're being honest with what that flow looks like, there's always a way to improve. We work with a lot of clients who have adopted a mindset and mentality of being 1% better every day. And I love that idea, because it forces you to be curious. It forces you to look at better ways to do things, and it enables you through that forcing function to really grow and develop new and better ways of innovating and improving those practices and processes. Simple things from receiving goods in and where they go, to complex processes like assembling multi-level bill of materials and where to take certain steps. And so we'll, without further ado, jump into that. On the next slide, we introduce the first concept and topic, which is understanding the value of data and in manufacturing. There's a lot of data here. So on the next slide, we have a subset of examples. This is by no means comprehensive. We could spend a lot of time talking about manufacturing data, but a few things I wanted to call out in greater detail. Some of them seem very obvious, and then others maybe are perceived as being too advanced, especially for smaller operations. But I'm here to tell you that these types of key performance indicators really matter, regardless of the scale that you may be working with. These are things to think through. And if you feel like there's a barrier to getting the type of data that we're talking about today, I strongly encourage you to consider Fishbowl as a solution to those needs, so that you have the right tools and the right data set to make informed decisions. So starting on the left, a little bit of a run through here on production volume. If you can't say with confidence based on a specific product what your production looks like, and if I've got 10 widgets that I create, widget A and widget B may be similar, but the production volume could look very different. And that may be the result of more labor involved, more steps to be taken, more components, or simply different components. But it's imperative that you know what the production volume looks like. And if you don't have a tool to do that, that's a great place to start, because on that hinges a lot of the other data and decision-making frameworks that are needed. Now, coming down this list, cycle time on raw goods, lead time to get goods in the door. And this takes on multiple facets: the lead time of sourcing goods, and then also the lead time of creating. So if the manufacturing process is involved, if you've got clients that have complex products or lots of steps in the process, or maybe it's few steps, but it's still a long time to build. I'm thinking of a client of ours who, at one step in their process, they manufacture safes for banks and defense and other reasons, and they need to paint those. Well, the paint process takes some time prepping, and then even when they paint, there's a dry time associated with that, and then a cure time associated with it when they put a final coat on it. And so those things also lead into that. In addition, understanding and having a working grasp on your yield rates and scrap rates, that's a piece of, or an element of, the production volume. So we may get 100 units out of a machine, but if the fail rate on those is 5%, that's important to know when we're talking through when we can actually deliver that product by. And then another subset of that production volume becomes the downtime. If there's retooling that's needed in a process, or if the dry times on particular items or other reasons for downtime also need to be understood so that a delivery can occur. That leads into the output of what's going on when we produce a thing, being able to know, forecast, and understand order volumes, both on the ingoing and outgoing sides, and then equipment efficiency, the quality control metrics. Those kind of go hand in hand. What's my fail rate again look like for yielding product, and then documenting, capturing, recording, and flowing forward any quality control metrics may have. So it may be a simple QA process where an operator at the end of the process determines whether the product is good enough, or it may be much more involved where lab testing and certificate analysis or some other workflow needs to be captured. And a subset of that I won't go too far into, but it is relevant here for manufacturing data, would be documentation for compliance reasons, for traceability, and some of those things. And if you're struggling with the documentation and the recall reporting or whatever it may look like, that's another element of manufacturing data that, while isn't directly related to inventory and manufacturing, is highly valuable, and it's a necessity for clients to be able to operate that. So some great tools that Fishbowl provides there that we'll talk through. And then the last piece here, as far as manufacturing data, is production scheduling, and then vendor and supplier performance. Now, if you're feeling at this moment like there's a wall here that can't be overcome, you'll be happy to know the good news is we have some great tools that enable these details and data points with so many others. There's a short list of those in our functionality set on the right side of the screen, with the bill of materials capability that Fishbowl provides, stages and sub-assemblies, capturing one-time items and options and variables. And we're going to talk about each of these in a little more detail. Cost is another relevant point for manufacturing data. It's important that you have a really good working knowledge of all of the costs that go into that. And it's multifaceted. For many manufacturers, there's obviously the build cost, which is relevant to production, and that includes the cost of goods sold, so the materials costs that go into that. There's several ways to measure that too. So when we think through the build cost and the valuation of goods as they flow through, a really important element to manufacturing data. It is obviously manifest on the balance sheet, and knowing what we have in raw good material versus work in process goods versus finished good is really a truth that every business who manufactures things should be able to have readily available. So if that's a sticking point, we definitely want to make sure that they're focused in on creating solutions for that. And Fishbowl enables a great way of capturing costs for the raw goods, work in process items, and finished goods that are being created. And then let's also talk about the importance of direct labor capture. So one of the differentiators that we provide in market is a very advanced direct labor system. We have a mobile app and the ability to book labor and tasks directly against work orders or holistically. This is again tying back into the data, but it also takes on another facet where we have folks who may be servicing certain industries that require advanced data set. So if you have any clients, as an example, that are working with government contracts, or they service DoD contracts, or whatever it may look like, even at the state and county level, if there's some level of government involved, there's typically a negotiated labor rate that needs to be afforded to that process. And for small to mid-market businesses, there may be scenarios where production staff wear multiple hats. So going back to that case study example of a customer that builds safes for banks and otherwise, they have a government contract opportunity where welding and painting are two tasks that occur, but they bill them at separate rates. So it's important to capture the nuance and the detail of those costs in all their various forms, be it labor, or materials, or otherwise. Another piece of this that kind of falls through is the scheduling and execution side of getting things done, and then driving the foundation of good manufacturing data is inventory management. And there's so much detail we could go into here about making sure you've got the right things in the right time at the right place. The one I wanted to call out specifically, though, that sometimes is overlooked would be vendor lead time. So a facet of inventory management that's more and more overlooked is if I don't have things on the shelf, and if I'm trying to be lean in my manufacturing processes, I need to understand how quickly I can get the items that I need from my vendors, so that nothing's being held up. I'm not tying up excess cash with overstock inventory, but I'm also not slowing down the process or putting a hold on things because I'm waiting on a set of washers to finish out my $1 million machine build. So those are some areas to be aware of, and some things to start the conversation in and get you thinking about manufacturing data. Moving on here into the bill of materials. So when we think about the bill of materials, anyone who's manufacturing things may likely have a recipe for doing so. That doesn't mean they have to. It could be a scenario where they're an R&D shop, where they do bespoke manufacturing, one-offs, custom jobs, things of that nature. We've got a lot of clients in the automotive space, as an example, and for all those guys and gals who love to build hot rods, they dream up and do the impossible every day. And that's one scenario where a brand new item comes out. But more often than not, in that scenario, there's still a set of raw goods that come together to create that bill of materials. And so it's important to have the depth of information for that data set to really capture the right level of detail. Now you can see here, Fishbowl provides finished goods and the raw goods that go into that. And then there's some steps to it as well. So we can actually have stages or subsets, as many levels as you may need to capture that, so you have full visibility on the bill of materials and what it really takes for this recipe, or this formulation, or this assembly, whatever it may be that you're pulling together. And this transcends a lot of different industry verticals. So in this case, we're looking at building a bicycle as our example. So we take wheels and a seat and brake cables, and they all come together, and we build a bike. But that could look like I bake cakes, or it could look like I custom develop automotive components, or it could look like a construction site with a large crane being put up, or whatever that may look like. There's always, from that manufacturing standpoint, a recipe that needs to be referenced and built upon. And this is true in scenarios where you have both build to stock and build to order scenarios. So Fishbowl provides additional fields and information to help with the flow of goods in your workflow. So whether it's a one-time item that gets used for machine calibration, or if we need to group different items together and use those in various areas, that's a foundational piece to our good data for manufacturing. On the next slide, we'll take another step further and look at the fact that so many people these days want to have customization or a just right for them scenario. So Fishbowl also supports configuration management, and that has a few forms to it. You can pre-build in your data sets the bill of materials to actually allow for those configurations. So in this scenario, I have an item, but it has a variable quantity. So I may be able to choose one or two or three, or I may be able to choose A or B or C into my build process. So for a bicycle, that could be a different set of hand grips. Maybe it's a different color or a different style. For computer manufacturing, it may be the hard drive size. For all these variable scenarios. And the reason that I bring this up as part of the good data management is it allows you, when you're capturing this type of information, to then reference the usage of that and the popularity of different configurations, so that you can focus on making sure you have the right stock. First off, when we select a particular item in that configuration, we want to know how often are customers choosing that variation of it and be able to report back on it. And then we want to be able to support the inventory that goes into having that, so that we can fulfill in a timely manner. On the next slide, we introduce kind of the next level of this, which is, in addition to knowing what widgets need to go into this and having the right inventory, we also need to be cognizant of the cost associated with that. So Fishbowl does a full breakdown based on that bill of materials and what you're doing to create a manufacturing order. From that manufacturing order, you can continue to customize and to refine on a one-off bespoke basis if that's your workflow and model. And then the cost is driven based off of that manufacturer order that's occurring. So we're capturing first the template in the bill of materials, and then the work order, and then within that in real time. And from here, we can take a tangent conversation that could take all day. So I'll just put a quick pin in the cost management in saying that from a cost perspective, cost accounting can be captured and supported via Fishbowl in either an average, a LIFO, a FIFO, or a standard model. So another piece of that data set is understanding how you want to capture the costs, what they look like, and then you, from this point, can manage those costs. You can have an understanding of the projected cost if that's what you're utilizing for quoting and estimation purposes, and really hone in on line by line, piece by piece, and including the labor that may go into this, or we were talking about earlier, to have a great visibility into what are the costs that are actually being incurred to produce this particular final finished good, or if we're on in somewhere through the process, the work in process amount, and what does that look like in influencing my balance sheet. So costing certainly a relevant piece that we want to make sure that we're staying on top of. The next slide talks a little bit more about when I'm doing that in a repetitive way, when I'm building the same thing over and over and over, there's also great data that can be extracted from that in understanding, well, how many different revisions have I potentially gone through on this bill of materials? And within a given time frame, what does it take to build that thing? So focusing in and honing more into from the time I start the work order to the time I finish the work order, some great visibility into best, worst, and average time, and then an estimated build time that you can preload that will help. And we'll talk about that in a moment as far as scheduling. But this is really an insight that's happening automatically as folks are running through their day-to-day workflow scenarios. In the background, all of this data and information is being collected. A quick at-a-glance way to see it is here in the build statistics, and so you can get insight relative to the build process. We'll look at in a little while some more on AI and how we can use that to make better business decisions. On the next slide, though, I want to jump into the other half of the equation for manufacturing, which oftentimes looks like direct labor. Now, there may be scenarios that you have a fully automated system and the machines take care of that, but chances are there's still some human involvement there. And even in those most automated of circumstances, we need to make sure that there's oversight and the monitoring of those processes to happen, or it could be that you're still building things in a scenario where there aren't robots running everything, and it's important that your people are capturing their time. So another element to that good data for manufacturing involves the people and the tasks that they're involved with. Part of what Fishbowl provides as well is that direct labor time capture. We can start and stop working within particular work orders. The details that may be relevant for a particular project can all be captured here. And we have a great app that goes alongside Fishbowl where folks can just scan in and scan out, either using QR codes or PIN identification or whatever they may want to use to capture that. And it can be as simple as just starting and stopping an order, or as involved as working through as many steps may be requisite to complete that particular work order. You can associate cost with that, and all that rolls back into that cost management that we were talking about just a moment ago. So lots to consider there for time capture. I think with the summary that I'll leave you with at this point is be mindful of the impact of direct labor and the necessity of including that in your manufacturing process. With that, we'll jump over to the next slide and talk more about that part lead time. So for lean manufacturing processes, and to ensure that you aren't in a scenario where you've got way too much overstock of certain things. I talked to a client just the other day who they are new to Fishbowl, and one of the mistakes they made that actually drove them to considering the product is their production manager mistakenly ordered 30,000 of a part rather than 3,000, which means that they have about 3 years worth of stock for that item, and it's a long lead time item. It comes from overseas, and so they've got an entire room of their warehouse or a section of their warehouse that's dedicated to one raw good that they're going to have for some period of time. And the unfortunate part about it is it's a component that they really want to start scaling back on and replacing in future revisions with other items. So they deferred that decision as a result of having lots of stock. They're looking at creative ways to resell it or different things like that. And not to take the tangent too far, but knowing what you've got, where it's at, and how long it takes to get to you are all really good data points. Fishbowl supports having that information and a host of other pieces with that. So purchase history information and capturing all the right details as part of that vendor management. Vendor part numbers, the costs that they're paying, as well as how long it takes to get to you. Another element to that may be minimum order quantities. So if you need to buy it, you have to buy a minimum of 10 units in order to get pricing. We can handle part costing rules and provide efficiency recommendations for what to buy, when to buy it, what unit to buy it in. Am I buying a single piece? Am I buying a case? What's the cost difference relative to that? Fishbowl helps track and manage all of that process. So lots and lots of data clearly is the first piece here. If you're not capturing this information, whatever systems are being used today, that's the starting point, is get that information in. And then the next piece, we'll go into kind of the second phase of our conversation here, which is the next slide, discovering how AI can improve your client's bottom line. So there's a wall of information. If it feels like you've been standing in front of a fire hydrant for the last 20 minutes or so, first off, apologies. But know that that's how your clients feel as well. Either they don't have the data, or they have all the data and they may not be sure what to do with it. And that's where the magic of Fishbowl really comes in, is taking all of that information and aggregating it into both conversational insights and outcomes that affect the business in a positive way, which ultimately drives to improving the bottom line. So on the next slide, we've got an example of how Fishbowl ties a lot of different pieces together to become the central hub in what's occurring within an organization. So for manufacturers in particular, the bulk of the work that they're doing is going to occur directly in Fishbowl. The purchasing activities and inventory management, obviously the manufacturing steps, bill of materials creation and work order finishing and capturing labor is associated with that. All those things all fit together. But there's this whole other ecosystem that may also be part of what a business story looks like. That can include obviously their accounting system. So we have great connections and integrations into QuickBooks and Xero. That can include CRM solutions, that can include shipping tools, that can include e-commerce platforms. And we're seeing more and more manufacturers who traditionally may have only operated in a B2B scenario, that they've hung up a shingle and they're selling brick and mortar, or they're selling through an e-commerce site. They're leveraging tools like Amazon and Walmart and eBay to really take their product out to market directly to the world, as opposed to or alongside a dealer network or a set of partners that they work through, or events that they may attend, whatever that may look like. And so modern data management includes capturing all the various ways that these businesses are performing their commerce, and having a single place to capture all of that information so that you can look at the business operations full story, and then providing the data share back and forth between those various spots. The next slide shows just a little bit more detail on some of the varieties of areas. Now, this is by no means comprehensive. We have lots and lots of connections. In addition to that, we have an open API for Fishbowl. So we have lots of custom and bespoke integrations that are occurring to one-off systems or to new partners every day. But here's a sampling of some of the other data that exists within an organization oftentimes, that needs to be there in order for a customer to effectively see what's happening and then make those good business decisions. Now, all of this comes together with Fishbowl's AI Insights to drive toward what are the things I need to buy, when do I need to purchase them, what are the things I need to build, when do I need to build them, and when can I deliver it to a customer. Now, that's a very linear way to think. The may be inversed, where a customer interaction starts with, when can you get this to me? And so we need to work back up that chain and that sequence of events and start with the delivery date of a certain point in time. And then what do we need to do to make that? Now, that's where referencing back to that vast set of data referenced earlier becomes imperative, because when I think through an inverse of that flow, I need to know at the moment of sales order entry, how many of these things are they buying? Well, that's a pretty obvious step. They provide that to me. But then in order to provide that number of widgets that the customer wants manufactured, what are all the raw goods that I need to go through? What are all the steps that I need to take? What are the things that I need to buy or build in order to support delivering to that final piece? And if my sales are coming through a variety of sales channels, like they're buying on a Shopify and I'm at a trade show and I've got a dealer calling me or sending me an email, all of that needs to come into a centralized location so that I can aggregate the information out and get the right stuff on the right shelf at the right time. So from there on, in the next slide, this is really where we take that third step of equipping ourselves with the knowledge, the tools, the skill sets, and the visibility that will enable those smart manufacturing processes. So this is where the rubber hits the road, and we really put into practice and start to find the value in working with Fishbowl. On the next slide, a quick review. And if you aren't familiar already with SMART goals, there's an acronym here that I love to think through, which is that SMART goals are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're timed. Because through employment of goals that meet these characteristics and attributes, we really allow for the ability to optimize efficiency, to reduce waste, and to improve product quality. it's easy to be specific in goals at a high level, but the moment we start to say, well, we also need to be able to measure that goal, that's where oftentimes things start to fall short. If we don't have systems in place that allow for visibility, we actually have to turn back and make the goals less specific. They become generic at that point because we can't say that we need to have data enabling, that we need to have time capture, that we need to have the right place at the right time is a nice thing to say, but it doesn't detail that I need 10 widgets on the bench at 2 p.m. for a work order that's getting started. And that level of detail can be available when you have the right tool set to make those things measurable. Once they're measurable, the ability to become achievable is far more relevant because I know how I'm going to get there. And then obviously the relevance and timeliness of those goals is important. So this is a general principle that extends obviously well beyond manufacturing, but I think it's relevant in the sense that if I'm a manufacturer who has a product to bring to market, I need to know what to build, when to build it, where to send it to, and that's a non-trivial business problem to solve. The reason that it's non-trivial for so many businesses is that it's a multifaceted problem. On the next slide, we see a little bit more about that. It's multifaceted because it involves costs, it involves quality, it involves the process that needs to be run through, it involves labor, and unless you have a fully automated warehouse, and even if you do, there's still a human element in most manufacturing processes that we work with, where prioritization has to occur and decisions have to be made in real time. If you're a bit like me, there's always something that can go sideways in the manufacturing process. I talk with manufacturers all the time who, the bill of materials looks great on paper. What happens on the warehouse floor has to pivot. That could be something as simple as more moisture in the product than they were anticipating in whatever the build looks like, or we just had a bracket that broke, and what's the thing we do next to get this project back on track, or whatever all the ors and variables are. The other side to that coin is a decision that needs to be made, and the more we can do to provide detail at the end user level where they should be making decisions. That's not to imply that a production person on the shop floor needs to determine priority of things in a certain scenario, but allowing them to have autonomy within their role is driven by providing better detail at the line item level. And so having the bill of materials detail and the instructions and the steps and guidance through what good looks like is another element to supporting that smart manufacturing process. And ultimately it drives, as we see here, to creating an improved process efficiency, to having better output and yields, to driving costs down, to becoming that more efficient, allows us to stretch the dollar further, and the production time greater, and getting better yield and doing more with the inventory. All of that driving back and forth up and down the organization. The name Fishbowl actually originates from the idea that regardless of where you're at in the business, you can see what's happening from every angle of the operation. So next slide, let's talk a little bit about, how does Fishbowl deliver smart manufacturing? There obviously are some things that we need to make sure that we're doing, and it's not just an academic conversation. If we think about this in terms of business problems that folks often have, a common one is, I need the most important business data at my fingertips all the time, right? I need to be able to know what's happening. And so this is where we get into how we're actually affecting outcomes. One of the ways we do that is our AI Insights tool. You can go in and you can ask our AI assistant, digital assistant, whatever question you may have about the business, whether that's, what do my sales numbers look like? What are my top performing items? What are the inventory that I need to reorder? All of those things are there. Another common problem that we see is I need custom reports. what does that look like? Well, with Fishbowl, it's really easy to create those reports, to create dashboards, to on the fly build the information that you need so you can make more informed decisions. And another example, this is a better way to get insight to what's happening with my customers, with my products, with my margins. When's the last time you interacted with a client and you could ask them a question like, what are your margins like on this product versus that product? Just imagine how great it would be if they had an answer to say, well, let's pull that up and see in real time based on costs from my latest shipment, what the margins look like. Those are enablement tools that every manufacturer should have the ability to take advantage of so that they can be making those informed business decisions. And to the extent possible, graduating that from informed business decisions into telling the future, and maybe not with a full crystal ball, but some great forecasting tools. And this is one we talk to folks all the time who feel like they need better forecasting information so that they aren't overstocking, they don't end up with dead stock. And then the converse is, as bad as it is to have overstock, it's even worse when you don't have a thing that you need. I talked with a customer not so long ago who was held up over 3 weeks on thousands of units of a particular product over a simple screw and a bolt because they couldn't get those in, and it's a specialized item. It put a lot of their production effectively on hold, and they wished at that point that they had better forecasting. And again, kind of a catalyst function. A lot of folks don't wake up in the morning saying, I need an inventory control and manufacturing system. It unfortunately takes a little bit of pain in a lot of cases to expose that. But as soon as it does, I'm here to tell you that there's a better way. And using tools like Fishbowl provides to help in that smart management is an imperative thing in improvement. On the next couple of slides, we'll look at some examples of that better insights. So even if you're a manufacturer and your focus is production, and that's the most important part, there's a high probability that it's actually sales driving that. So knowing what your sales look like at a high level, and then the ability to drill down in and see everything that needs to be produced to support those sales is great. The next slide shows purchasing insights, and the same would be true here of the things that we need to buy so that we can build. And the efficiency around knowing what to buy, who to buy it from, when to buy it, what quantity to buy it are all capabilities that Fishbowl helps facilitate. We have auto purchasing tools and forecasting to really help drive that process. Once the goods are in the door, the next slides will show detail around manufacturing. How many open work orders do we have? How many of those are overdue? What does it look like to get things done? What's the work in process value? Again, all of this high-level dashboard that at a glance can be drilled down into so I can get full visibility. And on the next slide, we have an example of how that all kind of comes together, regardless of the data sets and sources that you may have. You may need to pull information from your AutoCAD system, from your shopping cart, from Fishbowl, and from QuickBooks to really tell the story that you want to. And Fishbowl allows for that level of detail and granularity to occur so that they can really hone in on that. There are always challenges that folks need. So going back or going on to the next slide, kind of a reference once more into some of those different things, the problem sets that folks have of needing the most important data at their fingertips, of being able to build the reports that they want. Those are challenges that are really data-driven challenges. If you think about framing up the problem that we're trying to encounter, it's knowing how to answer that question. Well, the data is there. We need to be able to deliver on an efficient way. So on the next slide shows a little bit about how Fishbowl goes about doing that. And there are really 4 legs to our data story that we help with. And the first, I've mentioned it already, referenced it, is creating your own reports and dashboards. And this is inclusive of all the data that lives in Fishbowl. You can grab that information and pull it into a dashboard or into a report in real time. That includes custom fields or part tracking information or any other things that you've added into Fishbowl. If it's there, we can get it onto a report, which is a great value. Sometimes there are limitations with other systems where you build this thing and it's a field, but you really can't report on it and search by it and make decisions from it. And that's certainly one of the things that we want to make sure is available. Another piece of that is having a digital assistant, so an AI-driven assistant that makes on-demand insights real time. So there's a news feed that is available and recommendations that come from that large language data set model that evaluates everything that's happening within Fishbowl, from sales to purchasing to inventory to manufacturing. And from that, we deliver proactive insights. We can actually tailor that news feed for a business, for your client, to see the information that's relevant to them. And that could be purchasing data, that could be vendor interaction and overdue purchase orders, that could be past due deliveries. And then we can drill into all of that data and get predictive insights around the information. So if you have a client who's constantly delivering late to their customers, they're missing deadlines, it might not be that the work order process is slow. It might be that they're waiting too long to order the right goods, or it might be the other way around, where the goods are on the shelf and they're not scheduling this in and allowing for enough time to complete the manufacturing process. If they want to have the stuff in the building a week in advance, but they don't start building and it's a 3-day process, all of those pieces kind of fit together, and Fishbowl provides insight and predictions based on the data available to what needs to happen next. From here on the next slide, we just a call out to where we fit. This isn't just smoke and mirrors. Fishbowl has been around since 2001. We've integrated with QuickBooks since 2003. Obviously, at that time with their desktop product, which we still have a connection to, on the enterprise solution, and then more recently in the late teens with both Intuit QuickBooks Online products. More recently, their IES or Enterprise Suite solution, as well as a partnership with Xero that goes back since 2016 for those who are using Xero for their accounting. And the data that flows includes not just the Fishbowl data set, but also the accounting piece, which is very, very important to telling the whole story and having a holistic solution for product-based businesses who manufacture. On the next slide, there's just a quick flash to some of our customers who have seen great results from using Fishbowl AI Insights and coupling that with QuickBooks or Fishbowl. For the sake of time, won't go too far down this road, but the one example I'll call out here from one of our customers, Judith, was a poignant conversation around how it's freed up time in doing boring and tedious tasks to being efficient. And the things that business owners or operators struggle to do, where and how they can be automated, just adds so much more value and creates that positive impact on their business. So some good call outs there, and we're happy to align you with these folks if you'd like to learn more about their experience with the product. So lots that we've covered here. Appreciate your time and being with us today, and hope that you've found some benefit and value in a deep dive into understanding that value in data and manufacturing, discovering where AI can fit into the business. There's a lot of buzz around AI, and we've really focused heavily and invested in taking that buzz into actionable data and making informed decisions, and not just kind of a gee whiz functionality, but really truly equipping a business with the information they need to make those good decisions, to have smart goals, and to implement good manufacturing process throughout everything that they do. So with that, I think I've got a message. There's some questions coming through, so we'll jump into those.
Yeah, here I'm going to read you some questions if you don't mind. And again, thanks for everyone for attending today. So someone asked, how does Fishbowl help manufacturing teams make better decisions and work efficiently?
Great question. How is Fishbowl helping business teams make better decisions? Well, every day in all that they do, there's a process element that we're helping with. So that's kind of the foundational level of improvement is because Fishbowl is designed to help with the inventory manufacturing steps. There's orders and there's organization and there's alignment that comes from that. So that's that first level pass at adding value. And from there, we can take the data that's collected through that order management process, entering a sales order, finishing a pick, starting a work order. Those are all drivers to workflows that are occurring, and we can extract through great reporting tools the insights and the data sets on how long did it take to finish this work order versus that work order, or where in the warehouse am I going to pick goods. All of those type of data sets from those workflows that are occurring read back into the predictive insights and recommendations that Fishbowl can make.
Great. We have two more I see right now. One is, does Fishbowl offer benefits for tracking real-time data that can help me and my team cut down waste and improve product quality?
Absolutely. That's one of the best outcomes we see early on with folks who adopt Fishbowl is efficiency improvements and reduction of waste. One client in particular that I worked with, they discovered they are a salad dressing manufacturer. They put salad dressing into small packets and then distribute it out with salads out to grab and goes in airports and gas stations and different things like that. And they discovered very quickly on that they were over picking materials, and they were sending too much raw good down to the production floor every time they ran a batch. And the production floor just thought they had a little extra, and so they were literally washing the extra down the drain at the end of every process, and it amounted to tens of thousands of dollars a month in raw goods that were literally being flushed down the drain. They were able to quickly identify that there was an over pick on those materials that were coming through, and adjust the bill of materials, adjust the picking process, and become more lean in that particular build. And that was just one step in many for the finished good that they were creating, was that simple salad dressing step. Now that's maybe an egregious example of tens of thousands of dollars, but the reality is most of the manufacturers we work with, when they learn what that are actually being consumed, they can make adjustments and improvements and efficiency and cost savings by simply knowing what actually happened and what they can do to improve that scenario.
Great. That's a great use case. And then I see one more here about if Fishbowl's AI tools can help. How can Fishbowl's AI tools help me plan better and stay ahead of demand?
Great question. So, demand planning and looking into that future forecasting is always an important part of the manufacturing process. The dashboards that I referenced earlier, the predictive insights, and then from a time perspective, calendaring, scheduling, having a Gantt chart and assignments made. If you want to go to that level of detail, that's not requisite. Some companies don't want to go right down to that level of detail of assigning users to work orders and giving them time to it. But there's a kind of a crawl, walk, run model that we support any level of detail, and that can change over time as well. So we work with companies who initially they may just want to capture time, and then they want to take the next step and start assigning specific users to a work order, and then take the next step and actually schedule out and look at a full production plan, regardless of whether you fit in those scenarios of full capacity planning or simple labor capture. We've got tools that can grow with you through your journey and allow you to see the right information at the right time and to improve as you go.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for attending today or watching this on demand. And thank you, Kendrick. Here's a quick reminder on how people can earn free CPE for attending today's webinar or watching it.
Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.